Hello and welcome to Fulham Fan News. This is now the third episode. So far, so good, I think. Um, on the last episode, we talked about the likes of Damari Gray and Sebastian Bornau. Tonight, we're going to get into some more close to home players. We're going to talk about James Ward-Prowse, Mina, Max Aarons. Um, and tonight, I'm joined by Kieran once again. Kieran, how are you doing?
As always. Hello, Mr. Massive Mike is back and he's struggling a little bit of hay fever, but we're battling through to discuss some more exciting transfers, which have arisen in the media this week or in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, looking forward to it.
So today we're going to try and unravel some of the rumours that are doing the rounds recently. We're going to talk James Ward-Prowse first, obviously a massive signing if Fulham can get it done. But obviously at the moment the talk is that he'd come in with the money that we get for João Palhinha. I just don't see that happening. The valuation that Southampton are putting on his head suggests to me that this one is not going to get done anytime soon if it gets done at all. But talking about the player, personally, it would be a fantastic signing. He'd add so much to our squad. Obviously, the idea of Ward-Prowse whipping in balls for Mitrovic is salivating. To be honest, it's quite a nice thing to be thinking about. But that's not the only thing in his game. He's very good with the type of pressing game he's worked under Hasenhüttl. And also one thing that's gone under the radar that I really love about Ward-Prowse is his leadership skills. He's led that Southampton team for many years now, through mud, through thick, through thin, and he's dragged them back from massive losses in the past, the 9-0 losses in the past, obviously under the management of Hasenhüttl again. So he'd fit the high pressing system. The articles that have come out regarding him, he's apparently said that he'd prefer to join Fulham over anyone else because of the way we play, and I could totally understand that because he would just fit like a glove in that midfield. Um, Kieran, obviously, I'm sure you've seen a lot of James Ward-Prowse. How would you feel if something like that actually happened?
It's a very exciting concept, I think. I mean, obviously, as you said, he's a leader. He's a really hardworking player, and I think he'd bring a lot to the team. It would make Craven Cottage an exhibition of the greatest free kicks ever known to man. Um, but of course, as you say, he's got various other things along with his free kicks, which are the most mentionable ones. His like the presence in midfield is quite dominant, and I think he'd fit right into the way Silva likes to play, with the high press and everything. And I think he'll be a really good addition to the starting 11. If not starting, at least coming on as a substitute to really kind of like hold the lead, extend the lead, or battle for equalizers in the final few minutes. But he really does show potential, and I really hope this transfer does get done, because it's certainly a statement signing, especially if the fee is quite low. But of course, it really does depend on various other things and whether Southampton are willing to let him go, because, as you say, he's been their leader since for forever.
Yeah, obviously, I think the reported fee is roughly £50 million, which for Fulham, I expect that they're going to sign quite a few players this window, and to an outlay of £50 million on one player would be quite a lot. I do expect that they'll sign a couple of marquee signings, and if he was to come, he would be one of those signings. Um, so for me, it's one that I just can't see happening at this moment in time. If someone comes in with an astronomical bid for a João Palhinha, then maybe we'd start talking. They're not the same sort of player in any shape or anything like that, in any way they play. But Ward-Prowse, the money would be the thing. If Palhinha went, Fulham would then have the money to go and get a player like Ward-Prowse. Maybe Harrison Reed would drop back into that six role. I don't quite know how it would all work, but personally, at this moment in time, for anyone who thinks James Ward-Prowse is going to happen soon, or is one that Fulham are really trying to push through, it's probably not the case right this moment in time. There's a lot more pressing matters. The defence seems to be where Fulham need to strengthen first in this window. Um, so yeah, James Ward-Prowse would love to see it, but probably not anytime soon. And without the domino effect of the João Palhinha thing happening, which we all obviously hope doesn't happen. Moving on to Yerry Mina, I think this one is obviously we've seen now reports saying that that's not the case. Fulham aren't interested in Yerry Mina, but there's been many reports claiming that he is. So just to talk about that one for a bit, I think that this would be a really shrewd bit of business if it happened. I know he's got injury problems in the past, but he's got plenty of Premier League experience under his belt. I watched him the other day for Colombia. I think it was against Germany, and he played out of his skin. He was fantastic, defensive rock. And I think it's one of those ones. Obviously, I know Marco Silva signed him as well when he was at Everton, so they worked together at Everton. And I really think that this would be a really shrewd bit of business for Fulham if they can get him in on what is technically a free transfer. Obviously, we're not talking wages, we're not talking signing on fees, things like that, but we are talking in terms of a fee. If Fulham were to get 15, 20 million for Tosin Adarabioyo, to get someone like Yerry Mina in at 28 years of age, Premier League experience, full international, worked under Silva in his history, it's a no-brainer, right?
You'd think so, yeah, because especially for depth wise, he's got the experience. I think it'd really like benefit. I think it'd really benefit the back line, whether he's playing alongside Ream or Diop. I think in replacement of Tosin, I think it'd be a huge addition. Yeah, I mean, in his eight, I mean, he's only made 8 appearances this season, but he scored 2 goals in that time. And I think, of course, he's 28 years. I think he's still got a few years in the tank. Of course, a notable goal of his was his last-minute equaliser against Wolves, which did help Everton to their survival of the relegation this season. But I think it'd definitely be a really good addition in terms of experience and in terms of the proper juicy Premier League depth that we need to have if we're going to push on to higher positions in the league.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have a thing where it's like free tick system, where whether this player would work at Fulham. So it's whether he hit they hit the valuation target, which obviously as a free transfer he hits that. Whether they fit the system, which again they fit that, and in terms of experience, stature in the game, again he fits that. So for me, Yerry Mina would be a signing that, although it's not one that's going to get you off your feet, it's a really shrewd bit of business by Fulham if it was to happen. I have seen recently that Besiktas have offered him a contract, and there's interest from France as well. But if Fulham were to pursue this one, I do think that the pull of staying in the Premier League, probably working under Marco Silva again, would help Fulham try and secure Yerry Mina's signature. Um, yeah, I think that it would be a really good signing for Fulham, like you say, in terms of depth in the squad, but also it's not just depth. If we have a prolonged injury, let's say someone like Diop gets injured for a period of time, Mina could step in and play 10, 11 games in the Premier League, no problem, providing his injury history is behind him, because he does have a few blots on the book there in terms of his recent history at Everton. He's been injured quite a lot. Um, but if managed correctly, I think it's one that Fulham should look at if they're not already looking at it. And obviously, recent reports suggest they are. So yeah, I think I'd like to see that one. I'm going to talk about one that isn't Premier League based now, and one that's quite exciting for Fulham fans as well. When the news broke that Lucas Campos was a target for Fulham, I really like Lucas Campos. I've liked him since he was a youngster coming through, and when he was at Marseille, I was a big fan of his. He's not blessed with blistering pace for a winger, but his physical stature and his engine is something that really would fit Fulham's gameplay, the way Fulham's style and set up. He presses high. He does have that South American flair as well. He loves a no look pass. We saw in the um, Europa League final, he did a no look penalty. So he's cool as ice. He's got ice in his veins. So and obviously Fulham do desperately need someone to take penalties by you know
I
off the back of last season. So
think a change is
um,
due.
yeah, so yeah, Lucas Ocampos. I've seen the fee. I think Sky reported a fee of 15 million euros, but very quickly when we spoke with some journalists out in Sevilla, they very quickly said that fee is not going to be enough to get Ocampos. And I think Sky also said that he was coming into the last year of his contract. That's also incorrect. His contract runs till 2025, not 2024. So that gives Sevilla a bit more pull in terms of being able to lift that valuation. Um, but he's a fantastic player. He's a two-time Europa League winner. He's obviously a serial winner. He's had in the past, some people have questioned his attitude at times, but there's a few players that Marco's worked with at Fulham that have been the same. So, Marco could drum that out of him. I'm in no doubt of that. His game is pretty much set for the Premier League. The only problem here is that one, Wolves are also looking, and his former manager Julian Lopetegui is now at Wolves, and he has said in the past, Ocampos, that Lopetegui is the best manager he's ever worked under. And also, he said that off the back of the loan he had at Ajax last season that didn't work out, he doesn't want to leave Sevilla again. So it's going to take a big offer and a big offer to the player to try and pull him over to the Premier League to work with Fulham. Kieran, have you seen much of Lucas Campos? Does he excite you?
He's certainly an exciting player, which I would absolutely love to see in Fulham colours. I think if we were to get him, it would be quite an audacious move, considering everything you've just said there in terms of the conditions that he would want to meet. But of course, he's a very skillful player. I think he's quite a wide playmaker. He can get crosses in, though he doesn't have the pace, as you say. His work rate and just like everything about him is brilliant. And I think Argentinian international. He's 28 years old, few years left in the tank, and I think under Marco Silva he would thrive, and would be a real statement signing for Fulham's attack, which of course has had issues in the past. And I think it would kind of help if we then got a striker in alongside that. I think it would really help like boost and bolster our attack. You'll have Solomon on one side, but then it does pose the question who starts on the other side, whether it's Willian, whether it's Ocampos, whether it's Bobby Decordova-Reid, or whether it's Harry Wilson. Of course, we've got plenty of wingers options for either side. But I think it would be a really good signing. I mean, throughout this season, I think this includes his loan at Ajax. He's made 19 appearances and scored 4 goals. I think that's pretty good for a winger, and I'm sure there's more to come from him. But I think an Argentinian winger working under Marco Silva is a recipe for success. So I would absolutely love this signing to go through, but of course, it may be a bit difficult. But we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a difficult one to get done, I think. But it is one that Fulham do seem to be pushing to try and get done. And a lot of reports now saying that we are interested in this guy. And yeah, he can play anywhere across the front. So it's not a case of, like you said there, you've got Solomon playing on the left. I mean, that's if Solomon stays, right? So that's another question we have to ask ourselves. Um, but if, say, Solomon stays, then yeah, okay, you've got Solomon on the left, you've got Willian on the right. But there are going to be games where Marco might want to play with a false 9, and Lucas Ocampos can play that role. Not just that, he can play left, right as well. So he can change it up. Like you say, we've got so many different options now on the wings that every game can be, we can plan for every game for certain wingers. Harry Wilson cutting in off the right onto his left foot may be suited against teams that we're going to dominate possession against. But having someone like Lucas Ocampos who pushes high, presses high, may be better against those mid-table sides, or maybe playing him as a false nine against the likes of Manchester City and teams like that. Where we're going to need him to be pressing the back line. But yeah, it's an exciting link that, because we don't know for sure whether these deals are going to happen, but at this moment in time, it's very early in the window. I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, Fulham aren't doing any business." Typical Fulham, waiting and waiting and waiting. But players are still on holiday. Teams are still figuring out really what it is that they're going to be doing. Like obviously, we're seeing now Anthony Robinson's links away from the club. We don't know exactly what's going to happen as the window goes on. Like I said in the last episode, the Saudi Arabia thing is going to blow up across the window, and it's going to take away a lot of players from the Premier League that wouldn't have been taken away anyway. Players that are going to go for stupid fees, giving other teams a lot of money. Maybe Fulham are waiting for someone to come and take one of their players for stupid money. You never know what's going to happen in the transfer window. And one day a deal can be on, and the next day it can be off. So that's the idea of these videos, is to try and just give you guys a roundup really of all the rumours and what we think could happen or should happen really. So yeah, going on to the next target we want to talk about, and it's Norwich's right back Max Aarons, who's currently away with the England under-21s playing in the Euros, and I think he played at left back the other day. But yeah, he's now available for around £10 million, according to some reports, and Fulham have been linked with him historically, and now it looks like we've been linked with him again as a player that could come in and play on either side, really, but probably mainly in that right back role. Um, Definitely a more attacking full-back option to Kenny Tete. So maybe he'd come in for those games where we're not going to be so under the cosh. I think it's an excellent signing at £10 million. I think it's something that there's a lot of potential in the player. Big sell on in the future if he comes in and hits the ground running. And yeah, I'm excited by that one. I was excited by the link when we got the link last summer. Do you know much about Max Aarons?
Not too much, but I think you summarised it quite nicely there in terms of him being a very exciting player. I think he has real potential, especially as he's still in the England under-21 squad. I think he'll eventually move up to the main England squad, but he does show a lot of potential, and I think 10 million is a lot more reasonable than the whatever rumored it was last year, like 25 million or something. Even when he was in the Premier League with Norwich, I think he was one of their standout players, despite Norwich's poor results. And of course, as you say, he's a right back, but he can play left back if he needs to, and he's quite an attacking right back as well. So I think he really would suit those games where we need to kind of dig in and attack and get the balls forward. I think he will be good competition ahead of Tete as well. Because of course I'm not ruling out we're going to drop Tete, because why would you drop Tete like instantly? But I think it would be a really good player to kind of push for that competition and want game time. And I think under Marco Silva, he'd work really well and fit into the system nicely. So yeah, as you say, a really exciting transfer, and I hope we can get this one done, because it'd be a good way to kind of start the window, especially as we do need to sign another fullback. But we'll see how it develops, because he has got 2 goals under his belt as well, which is quite impressive for a fullback. So I think, yeah, it'd be a really good signing, and I hope we can get it done.
Yeah, he is a very attacking fullback, and I think he was caught out playing for Norwich in the Premier League because of that. Obviously, it was a couple of years ago. He was younger anyway, but um, yeah, I think he was caught out up the pitch quite a lot, and I think his game needs to develop a bit in terms of his defensive game. If we could maybe have Kenny Tete's defensive ability and his attacking ability, would be probably one of the best right backs in the league. But yeah, he's very good at crossing the ball in. He likes to get to the byline. He likes to overlap, much like Anthony Robertson on the other side. It seems like that's the sort of fullback that Marco Silva wants. High fullbacks getting on the overlap with the wingers inverted coming in to support the striker. So yeah, it definitely is one that excites me. Um, Hopefully Fulham can really start moving in the window in the next couple of weeks once the players are back from their holidays and things can start moving. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. One of which is Maxime Le Marchand has had to retire from football after some long-term back injuries. So obviously, we all wish Maxime Le Marchand a very happy retirement, and hopefully he finds something that he enjoys just as much as football. Um, he played for Fulham in a tough time, but he always gave his best, and yeah, just wish him all the best in his future endeavours. And secondly, the wonderful news that Sergio Rico has obviously woken up from his coma, but not just that, he's also now communicating with his family. And yeah, this is just it's fantastic news considering the injury that he suffered. Um, Everyone thought the worst, but he seems to be fighting really hard. So you know, we're all with you, Sergio, and we hope you recover fully from this horrible accident you've had. Kieran, thank you for joining me once again. It's been
No
a
worries.
pleasure.
At some point, the microphone will shrink, but I'm not sure when. So for now, we have to make do. But yeah, thank you very much. Always happy to join.
I think Mr. Massive Mike is going to stick now. That's courtesy of Mr. Fulham Fan Zone on Twitter,
Thank you.
someone I know personally. Um, and yeah, just to touch on, obviously we have the partnership with Foco UK. So again, the link is down in the bottom. Any merchandise you want to take a look at, it's all official, full of merchandise. Um, yeah, just go on the link, take a look, see what you fancy, and thank you all for watching once again. And we'll see you next time.